Rivals of Aether is how I start every video now, I feel like. Custom characters are coming to Rivals of Aether, so I asked you in many different ways in the comments of my last video, in a couple of different polls, on Twitter.
Follow me on Twitter.
And in the post thing. I asked you guys, what characters do you want to see in Rivals of Aether? And so I have compiled, using objective math, I've compiled a list of the top 10 most requested characters for Rivals of Aether. She's like a genie. I haven't played the Shantae games. I don't know anything about her. Is it because of the boobs? Shantae's like a pretty famous indie darling. She hits with her hair. And she can dance. Don't worry. The other numbers will get better. I know more about them. I feel like she's fairly simplistic, right? She hits with her hair, so that's obvious inspiration for a bunch of her moves. And she transforms. You just, you know, go in, use the power-ups, make those her moves or whatever. Who cares? Hat Kid. I love the Hat Kid game. What is it called? The Hat in Time? Like, there's obviously a gajillion different forms of inspiration. She's got an umbrella. She has all these different moves and stuff. Honestly, the thing is with Hat Kid is she's basically a Mario clone. So, make a character who's a Mario clone in her own game. Make a Mario clone in Rivals. That's what I would do. Do you like what I would do? Castle Crashers. These guys were a dark horse. Barely anybody mentioned them, but they actually shot the hell up in the polls. So apparently you guys like Castle Crashers. I played Castle Crashers when I was a wee youngster. The game's great, and I think they'd make an easy adaptation into a fighting game, right? They've got all these magic spells and moves, and they physically hit and stuff, so there's a lot of inspiration to draw for that. Another thing is that's a whole bunch of work. If you're like, oh, I want the fire and the saw blades or whatever, even if they're functionally the same move, like that's extra work for each Castle Crasher. I don't know, what are they called? The little knights? What are they? For each one, you'd have to, you know, that's a whole extra work. It's like doing another character, like 10 characters in one. So it'd probably be best to just pick one of the Crashers. Madeline from Celeste. Her name's not Celeste, as I always think. It's Madeline. Celeste is the sled. So yeah, Madeline's an interesting one because she doesn't hit or anything. Literally all you do in Celeste is just wave dash, essentially, or just dash. You'd have to get pretty creative with this character. You're gonna have to just make up a bunch of shit. The way I would go about approaching this, since I'm so knowledgeable and smart, Madeline, I feel like, is a lightweight character. She's tiny and moves quickly, so pick another character from some other fighting game that fits that archetype. Like, if we look at the way Dan and company approach doing Ori's specials are all, like, from the game, but, like, because Ori doesn't really hit and stuff and only does do specials, they had to basically just make up her normals, and they copied Captain Falcon for whatever the hell reason. That doesn't really fit thematically, but they did. That's what they did. So I would figure doing something similar to that with Madeline would be the way you'd want to go. You'd probably want to incorporate battling and like the orb things and like other items and environmental stuff that happens in Celeste. Because remember, these characters aren't just themselves. They're also more or less representing their games. That's like the way Smash approaches it. Like Pac-Man, you know, he shoots out the little ghost, which is something he doesn't really do. The ghosts are a whole nother character, but it's representing the game. So take that approach when you're making an adapted character, but you're probably not. You're probably just making a furry OC. We got the beefy, clammy, sweaty boy fish Bun Gin. This was another one that barely got any mentions, which shocked me, but did much better in the polls, which was not as surprising. This is obviously a character from another platform fighter, so it's even easier to adapt. Just, you know, do the things that he does already. Cuphead presents like kind of a challenge when adapting him because he could be really lame because, you know, he's all projectiles. His game is you're shooting. All you're doing is shooting. So there are some places to draw from. Like the obvious one would be like the Mii Fighter Gunner. That actually is like a good framework, a good foundation to build upon if you wanted to make a Cuphead-like character, since like he's got all these different weapons and each one of those can represent a different normal. You'd have like these small amounts of disjoint. This one was requested a lot, which to me is such a weird choice to do such like a basic character. Like Fox, in a lot of ways, he was like split and ripped apart. He's in like a number of different characters in Rivals of Aether, but I think it just makes sense. I think we all just want to see what the hell Fox would be like in Smash, or in Rivals. With some characters, you want to make them balanced. I think like most of these characters like Cuphead, Celeste, Madeline, sorry, you want to make them like balanced. But with Fox, I feel like it'd be much more interesting because, like, who cares if he's balanced or not? I just want to see what would Melee look like in Rivals, and I would try to just capture everything as close to 1-to-1 as you could. I think that'd be the most interesting thing, just as an experiment. Obviously, there's no limitations. More than one person can make this guy. One person can make a balanced Fox, but I really want to see what Fox would be like, and it wouldn't even be that hard because Sandbert exists, and Sandbert already draws a lot from Fox. He has his shine, he has illusion or whatever, he even has lasers. Like half the work's already done for you if you want to make a Fox from Melee, and then you just gotta rip the sprites from Super Smash Flash or Crusade or whatever. Easy. But yeah, I definitely would want to see L canceling, like proper Melee, what is it, 7 frames or some bullshit. I want to see L canceling, and I want to see shields and grabs, just straight up Fox from Melee. A shield alone probably would just destroy half the cast, or most of like the entire cast. So yeah, do that. The car from Rocket League for number 3. All your meme dreams can now come true. There were a lot of meme picks. They just didn't make it into the top 10. Some honorable mentions include Pepsi Man, Shrek, car from Rocket League. At first, right, meme pick, it's just a car, who cares? But when I actually started thinking about this character seriously, I actually think the car from Rocket League could be a really interesting character in a Smash game. Let's just take him literally. So how car from Rocket League wouldn't work is if you just made a regular ass Smash Rivals character and then he's just a car, right? You just put his car skin on him. What I think instead you should do, what if we really took the car thing all the way? He moves like a fucking car, or he actually drives. He goes really fast in one direction. It's difficult to turn around. Luckily in Rocket League, right, we have like the double roll thing. I'm not good at Rocket League. He has that roll thing. That could be a fundamental aspect of his movement. What also might be interesting is if you incorporate how with Rocket League you have like these boost pads. Maybe he could place boost pads in different spots, or they just spawn, and when he gets those, he gets, you know, empowered attacks or whatever. I think movement would probably be the most important part of car from Rocket League, is if you can really nail car movement in a Smash game, that could actually be super interesting. So, okay, we're gonna pause right here because I just want to say this was recorded before the Nintendo Direct where the Sans costume was announced for Smash, so I am aware of that. But I don't think that really matters because this is a discussion of how he would actually be his own character. You know, again, in Smash, it's really just a costume. People either love Undertale or they just hate Undertale, and everybody in the middle who's like usually doesn't say anything. So I feel like there's like this impression that we get of Undertale as this like really, it's like Rick and Morty. It's like one of these things where just everybody just screams when they talk about Undertale. And so I wanted to take a step back and just look at Undertale like a normal goddamn human being. So I asked you guys on Twitter,
follow me on Twitter,
why Sans? Why does everybody like Sans so much? And I didn't learn anything from you guys. There were a couple of responses that were kind of in line to what I already thought. So I've played the first couple of minutes of Undertale, and after getting a number of responses that didn't help me at all, I decided to just Google a video of the Sans boss from Undertale. Spoilers for Undertale, but I feel like at this point, if you haven't fucking played Undertale, you're gonna, then who cares? And so here's what I glean from Undertale. Why do people like Sans? Adam Carra's interpretation, because you guys are all wrong. And let me know in the comments or on Twitter if I'm right, if what my explanation makes you go, oh yeah, that is why I like Sans. Because you guys could not explain it to me. But the way I see it is, okay, in the first few minutes of Undertale, we meet Sans, one of the first characters we meet in the whatever whoopsie daisy world. I don't know Undertale. Immediately, he's fairly charismatic. He's friendly. To set it for people who don't know Undertale, we're a human and we're not allowed to be in the whoopsie daisy world. We meet Sans and he hides us. And clearly he's working for whatever government. I don't know Undertale. What you can glean from that scene without any context is that we're not supposed to be there, and Sans is supposed to call us out, and his brother Papyrus comes over and it's like, I thought I saw a human or whatever, and Sans plays the fool. And this is the key right here, is the scene has like this dramatic irony. We're hiding from Papyrus and he's real angry at Sans, and Sans, he just acts real dumb. He's like, well, I don't know where he is, and Papyrus is like, oh, Sans, you idiot, of course you don't know, you're so incompetent. While this is playing out, we know that Sans is actually really clever. And I think that's our first impression of Sans, and he's very likable because of that. He's friendly to us. You know, he acts lazy, but he's actually doing the right thing. And so then when we look at his boss fight, I have no idea what happens, you know, between that first scene and then. But what I think Undertale did for a lot of people was it messed with expectations. It displays itself as like a normal RPG. In the boss fight, I noticed that like they mess with UI. Like, you can literally get hurt and different things. Sans' like ultimate move, again, spoilers, is he literally just does nothing. Where his turn is to not end his turn, and that's how he's trying to defeat you, because he knows he can't beat you throughout the mechanics of the game itself. So like, you have this fourth wall break, and as young people who've probably never had their expectations messed with in a video game, when they play Undertale and this happens, it probably blew their little minds. And that's probably why a lot of people really, really like Undertale, because it's deep to them. It's something new and exciting, and if you don't like it, you just don't get it. And not to discount Undertale, I think it probably is a very clever game that's really good. I haven't played it, and I don't really care. I just think this is probably why we have this weird dynamic of people loving it or hating it. So anyway, to wind it back, I know you were like, I didn't watch this to be a discussion of Undertale. Sans, in Rivals, he's number 2. People really want this character, so how do we add him into a fighting game when he's an RPG character slash boss? Well, you have to look at the essence of Undertale. Like I said, Undertale messes with your expectations of what a game normally does. You know, in a normal game, you do your turn, it attacks, and then they do your turn, and then it ends, and you get a cutscene. But Undertale really like to blur the lines between like cutscene and mechanic. And so, how do you do that in a platform fighter? I've seen that a lot of people obviously have wanted Sans in Smash and have theorized all these different movesets and things. And I think one thing to avoid is he just throws bones. That is certainly part of it. I definitely think Sans should be a zoner. Let's start with that. Throw bones and projectiles, because that's kind of essential to the Undertale gameplay, is you having to do a bullet hell, right? So Sans needs to make it sort of a bullet hell for the opponent. But we need to go beyond that. How do we mess with expectations, but still it being balanced, being fun for the other player? His moves need to mess with expectations for a fighting game, not for an RPG, which he's from. You're capturing the essence, not necessarily mirroring what they did. How do we do that? I don't really know. I have some examples. They have to work mechanically, and the issue with a trick is, especially in like RPG, they're essentially jokes, and they can only happen once. And when you hear a joke over and over and over again, it stops being funny, it stops being interesting, it stops being entertaining. But in a fighting game, you have to, use the same move over and over and over again. The messing with expectations that Sans has to do have to ally with what works in a fighting game, which is basically a mix-up. So how do we do a mix-up that also is funny or in keeping to, let's just say, he has like a counter, right? Down special, whatever. He counters, and when he gets hit, it looks like he gets hit. He straight up goes into an hit stun animation, but he's not actually in a hit stun animation. He's perfectly active, and the next move he does will be empowered or whatever. After the other player understands that as a mechanic, it still works, right? Because it just works like a counter. But you have like this fun mix-up that's like, oh, haha. Another thing is, how do you mess with UI without breaking the game? I don't know if this is possible, but what could be cool is the bottom blast zone. Like, let's say he has a move where he slams down, and instead of falling into the bottom blast zone, he jumps off of like the stock counter thingy at the bottom. He jumps off of like the literal UI. I don't know if that's possible, but these are again the ideas. This is the thinking you need to be doing if you're going to be making Sans for real and he's not just a meme. If he's an actual serious character that captures what makes Undertale interesting and fun, but is also a balanced fighter. Hollow Knight makes a lot of sense because he's a bug. Before Shovel Knight came out, I think a lot of people thought Hollow Knight was like very much a contender, especially since Dan originally said that he wanted Rivals characters, even the guest ones, to match thematically with the game. Like when Ori came out, you're like, okay, Ori makes sense. It's kind of an animal thing. I'd fuck it if I were a furry. But then they did Shovel Knight, so fuck it, who cares? But anyway, Hollow Knight. Trevor did a design doc on Hollow Knight, so we're just gonna go through that because it's really good. I really don't know what I do different because Trevor, obviously, he literally makes characters for a living, or one of the things he does for a living besides, you know, taking the One Ring into Mordor or whatever. We start broad. Strengths: disjoint, range, extremely high air mobility, pretty good recovery. Weaknesses: lightweight, slashes don't have wide arcs or long active frames, somewhat slow on the ground, loses access to 3 of his special moves when he has no meter. So this meter mechanic, that's kind of like the rivalsy part of it. The way the meter's gonna work is we'll have it built up by dealing damage, which I really like because so many fighting games or Smash, you get meter dealt up by getting hit, which is essentially a catch-up mechanic, and competitive people hate that shit. To break down all of his moves, his main like stage mechanic thing here is Dream Gate. I actually really like this. It's just a portal. He just plops down a portal that he can then teleport to do something cool. Look at this dash attack. It's ginormo. Essentially, Hollow Knight is going to be like a glass cannon. He's got crazy offense, but hopefully the idea is he's small and light. Hopefully he's comboable. That's another thing you'd have to really consider. That's something we haven't really talked about at all with any of these characters, is making sure that their weight is right, because when making a custom character, and the most exciting thing in any Smash game is looking at their moves, right? What are the moves? What does this move do? What does that move do? There's all these little details. That's actually what makes a character balanced. So Hollow Knight definitely needs to be comboable to make up for these giant big dick moves. But yeah, people out there who want to make Hollow Knight, I would definitely recommend just doing this. Just doing what Trevor suggested. All right, that's all 10 characters. I hope you guys enjoyed that. And so yeah, this was fun. So what I want you to do now, instead, let's make this interesting. I want you to list the characters you want to see get adapted, but hard mode now. No characters from video games. What? TV, movies, comic books. Anybody? Comic books? Anybody?